All right, gonna go through Project 12 clone stamp with story problems. So it's very similar to Project 11 Blur Gallery, how you got to bring it in. And then I'll go through what to do. So just to review that, you are gonna click on the clone stamp story problems. They're already made for you, and you're essentially just solving them with the clone stamp tool. And you can't do anything on this original page, so you need to um, click on this and go to open a new window, and then you will see that download button right there. And once you click on that, it will appear in the bottom of your internet browser. And from there, you should have already made a Photoshop canvas, and you can just drag it in like that. And then let it know you're done resizing. Now for this one, you remember in the Blur project, we had to go and get every picture on its own layer. We do not need to do that for this one, but we do need to right click on the text here by the thumbnail of the layer and go to rasterize layer. Otherwise, it will not let us do the clone stamp. Now, if you try to do the clone stamp without rasterizing it, the first thing it'll tell you is it needs to be rasterized, in which case you have to go over there and do that. So the idea behind the clone stamp is that it samples a part of an image and takes all of those pixels that you sample, and then you can use that to almost like a brush and to make things have that sampled image on it. So used a lot of times in like touch up for photography and professional photos and stuff, doing touch up work. Um, and these four story problems, I try to simulate maybe how you would use it in some of your pictures. So how do you use the tool? First off, where is it? It's about halfway down, right below your, in between the brush tool and the history brush tool. You have, it looks like a little stamp, and make sure you're just on the one without the little X by it. So you just want the regular clone stamp tool, and you treat it just like a brush. So it can be soft or hard. It can have opacity on it. You use your bracket keys next to the letter P to make it bigger or smaller. And what you have to do is the main thing here is when you sample an area, you have to hold down the Alt key, and you see how if you're looking at the cursor right now, how it changes. That is your sample. So for example, you wouldn't want to sample back here on this sand and then go and try to brush in right here because it's farther away, so it's going to look a lot different. So again, I'm just holding Alt and I'm clicking, and you probably only want to click 5 or 6 times max before you go and resample. And the reason for that is if you just sample the sand right here and you just go crazy, it's going to guess and do its best job to try to get whatever should be in there in its place. But it's going to guess wrong eventually, and you're going to get some weird double stuff, and it's going to be putting in things it shouldn't. So when you do this, hold down Alt, click a couple times. Maybe on this one you just delete. Whoops, not sure what happened there. Hold down Alt and just maybe erase one or two. Go back, hold Alt again and click, and erase stuff that way. So for this first one here, it says help these partygoers clean up after a rambunctious beach party. So what you're going to do is focus on the cups here, kind of do their job for them, and hold down Alt and just kind of click and erase some of this trash. You see right there how it kind of reappeared there? When you get to an area where there needs to be a defined edge, and this is kind of a repetitive talking point, I want that shadow to be kind of a defined line. I don't want to necessarily click on this and erase that and have a weird shadow line there. So if you make a selection, we should know by now that you can only work in that given selection. So right now I can only clone stamp in this area here, so only in that shadow. If I were to take my clone stamp and hold Alt and try to click over here and erase this, it's not going to work. I can only do it inside of this area. So now I can clone stamp in that shadow, and now if I do select inverse or just right click, let's do it this way. It just selects the opposite, so now everything but that shadow is selected. So now I can go in and delete that cup right on a line there. So that first one is done. First one is super easy. I would say the next easiest one, if you're trying to just progress and get a little better at it, would be this last one here. This Yahoo ruined the nice couple's honeymoon picture. Please remove him. So you'd be doing the same thing with the clone stamp on this one and erasing the guy so it's just a beach then. Notice how I'm just doing a little bit at a time, resampling with Alt. So holding down Alt and clicking, and then letting go of Alt and just using it like a brush tool. Hold Alt and click. Kind of erase this whole guy. See how there's kind of a line there with the water? I'm trying to avoid that when I'm blending it. And he's gone. Let's go up to this one here. Mike Tyson wants an endorsement deal, but they want him to remove a space tattoo. Help him out. This is difficult for a number of reasons. One being that there is wrinkles in his head, which if you sample, will actually continue on. So you'd want to click here versus like here to see how the wrinkle goes in there then. So that's something you have to deal with. And the fact that there's, it's a face with different lighting and stuff on there. So you may want to lower the opacity on your actual clone stamp brush. You have to click more times and it kind of does a little better blend. I will get the easy parts first, and that would be, notice how zoomed in I am when I'm doing this, so I can kind of get in specific areas. I'm going to hold Alt and kind of get this outside here. And all you really have to do if something, you zoom out or something's not looking right, is just hit Control Z a couple times and go back to where you started. Your history panel is here for look how many clone stamps I have, but if you realize it just looks really bad and you want to hit Control Z like 20 times, you can always just click through here and find out like where you kind of started on that. So let me finish up this one. I'm gonna try to make my brush a little bit smaller for this one up here. And then just kind of wait till I get to the wrinkle part. So he would have this wrinkle here. I'm going to sample right there and try to click where that would naturally continue on there. I'm not sure how much farther it would go. I'll go like that. And I'll try to get in there and delete the top of that tattoo without missing any of it. It looks all right. When I'm underneath the eye here, look how small my brush is. I don't want to sample any of like the bottom of the eye there, or this wrinkle here. It'll kind of mess it up. So I'm making my brush really small and trying to just work towards a bigger area. And it should be pretty easy to finish up from here. Looking at it now, I can't remember if I accidentally deleted that eyebrow in the tattoo process, but same thing with hair. Like I could just sample here on the eyebrow and try to bring this over a little more. Looks a little better. And I'll just finish this up quick. Seen a lot of students try to like add horns on the deer on their own pictures and um, try to use it as more of like a tool to trick people. But if you were doing like touch up photography for school photos or whatever, like this would be something where you do. He looks totally different without that now. Last one is pretty difficult. It's Eric Church, some rookie photographer cropped up Eric's hat, help him replace it. This one, not sure if you've used this tool before. I know we've used the rectangle one, but we're actually going to make an elliptical marquee tool selection, and you got to try to get it perfect where it's kind of simulates the top of his hat here. And if you make a selection like that, you can always move it around with your arrow keys. But what I'd want to do is get it to kind of start here and end there. So I was a little bit too short there. I'm going to try this again. Go a little bit smaller there. Use my arrow keys. We'll see how that looks. It might be a little tall. This one's difficult for a couple reasons. One, because you're trying to complete it as a circle, and I kind of think it's too tall right now. I'm just going to roll with it. And you have these stitch lines kind of going up, and you're not sure where they would end. So you're kind of creating something that's never was there. The easy part on this would be to take your clone stamp tool and make your brush a little bit bigger and just kind of fill in this area first. And try to see how it's a little darker on the sides. Like try to sample the middle and maybe go up and then get some of the darker stuff for the outside. And then you can go back in and try to complete the stitch line. I'm not sure how. If you ever want to hide your selection tool just briefly, you can hit Control H and that actually makes it disappear. And then if you hit it again, it'll bring it back up. But just remember you did that, because what'll happen is a student will hit Control H and it'll go away and they'll try to do something else and it won't let them because they actually have a selection here. So if I have the selection here and I was going to move on and try to do something over here and sample it, it's not going to work because I technically still have a selection there and I can only work inside that selection. So just if you hit Control H to hide it and see what it looks like, hit it again so you bring it back up. So once you have kind of that hat done there, I realize that was maybe not the best job on the first try there. Then you're going to go over and you're going to sample the stitch line there and try to continue that up so where it would kind of run off. I'll do that here too. Control H. It messed up. I should have sampled one more time in the corner there. It's kind of why I did that. I had some people then like just put a logo on there just to make it look, kind of hide some of the clone stamp work. But if you zoom out, it doesn't look terrible. Oh, and they put like a, what do they do here? Let me try it. Hold Alt and put a, like a button on top or something. Oh, still have Control H selected. Hold Alt. That didn't look good. The top of a hat they put on, kind of make it look like there is the button up there. But that is the 4 story problems for the clone stamp. I will kind of make a new video explaining the next one on Monday. But for today, you're watching this and then you're kind of doing the 4. It really helps. I know I'm saying this at the end of the video, but if you have your iPad just open and kind of pausing it where you need to. So maybe you're watching the first one on the iPad, you pause it, do it yourself, hit play again, see kind of how I do this one, hit pause and kind of work your way through the problems like that. And just, I said it in the stream, but I will be on just the Google Meets. If you get stuck or something's not working, you can hop on there and present or project your screen to me. We kind of work through any problems that you may have. And that goes for the blur gallery 2 from the last project if you're still working on that. All right.